and we've been trying to kind of what's the phrase I'm looking for?
Wrap our head around what has happened.
Yeah, because all three cases were different from each other. The first case played out like Ace Attorney from back then, but this last one introduced juries, and the second case was just nothing but investigation and deduction, and two of the cases are kind of unresolved in their own ways. But, knowing Ace Attorney, usually these answers come in the last case of the game. I was just not expecting for me to suspect my client in, like, the third case of the game. I wouldn't have seen that coming. Alright, rumors. Are you quite sure? He's changed since he started appearing in those stories. The fame's gone to his head. Stuff like that. Gosh, do you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you? Like I said, they whisper. So I can't exactly catch what they're saying, but I know what folks are like. I'm sure that's what they're saying. As sure as eggs is eggs. I get the feeling this detective could be very hard work. Oh dear, perhaps a sudden rise to fame does change people. I don't know why, but he looks hilarious like that. Doesn't he just look kind of goofy?
Yeah.
I love it.
He's on lunch break. He's eating fish and chips.
He's got a funny look to him.
Okay.
I dig. Let's marvel at it for like 2 more seconds. 1, 2. Okay. So about the case that the Lord Chief Justice mentioned before. Nothing to tell, really. As far as we're concerned at the Yard, it couldn't be simpler. Oh dear, and that probably means that as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you were right. A young woman was walking along the pavement on Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in the hospital unconscious. That's despicable. What sort of coward would attack the poor woman from behind? I suppose you would have finished whoever it was off with a Susato takedown, would you? That is neither here nor there, Mr. Naruhodo. Brace yourself, Inosuke, you've angered her now. Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested, and barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest. So there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit? Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question? Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one. Can you just speak for a sec? I need a few sips of tea.
Sorry? There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now. Why ever not? Simple. The prosecutor that's been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Lord Barak von Zeeks. No! Sounds like you've learned of him then. Oh yes, we are very familiar with Lord Van Zeeks. Believed to be the harbinger of death himself.
Oh, Harbinger.
Harbinger. The Reaper of the Bailey. Lord Barak von Zeeks, who we faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGilden told us about him before the trial, didn't he? When Van Zeeks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. This is Reaper of the Bailey nickname. I suppose he's earned that because every defendant he advocates against him is found guilty. Is that it? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that in yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Naruhodo secured a verdict of not guilty. Ah, and what of it? Oh, well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, it is not impossible to save the defendant. No, you really don't have a clue, do you?
Alright, I'll take over from here.
I wonder if he killed him.
That's the thing, everyone is damned. Well, technically McGilded was, even if he was not guilty. What do you mean? What happened to that bloke in the end, eh? He's dead. Yep. So he's heard about the outcome of the trial. Magnus McGilded came a cropper in that omnibus when it went up in flames. So you can't rightly say you saved the defendant, can you? What? What are you saying? Look, if Von Zieks could get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. But that's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles. He works magic. Black magic. I'd have a good long think about that if I were you. Are we really supposed to believe that? That's actually a really interesting wrinkle in that. Because, like, Edward, it's like, everybody, you know, he'll bend the rules for everybody, but it doesn't seem like the people who take the place of the original people, like Susato for Maya, and Von Zieks for Edward, it doesn't seem like they're not replicas. They're their own people, which is good. But that's an interesting wrinkle in Von Zieks. Right, well, I filled you in as requested, and I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be heading back to the crime scene now. We're still carrying out a few investigations there. It was Briar Road, you said, didn't you? Where the incident took place? That's correct, ma'am. And if you head over to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself. You've branded him a criminal already? He's as good as, shaking like a leaf at his cell he is. He'll give you a chuckle if nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer, and he'll show you the way.
What is wrong with your beast?
I don't know, crazy cat. Inmate 53, thank you. So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Is something troubling you, Mr. Naruhodo? To tell the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think it's too much for you, there's no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too. But if the man they've arrested is innocent, you could well imagine he would be shaking like a leaf in his cell. And I, for one, wouldn't find the sight of that funny. So... if I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. And I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is, but I'd like to try, so I think I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help? Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I am your judicial assistant. Thank you. So then, shall we? Yes, let's go. So we can either go to the scene of the crime first, or we can meet our person first.
Yeah, person.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh my.
Oh boy. This looks way more dank than the stuff from the original trilogy. So these are British prison cells. Oh, they're ghastly. It feels just like a dungeon. Yes, and having experienced it in Japan myself, I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than those cold stone walls. Oh, don't, Mr. Naruhodo, you're making it seem worse. Apparently our client is in the cell here, but it's so dark at the back there I can't make him out. I wonder what he's like. Inmate 53, your legal representative is here to see you. Stop hiding at the back of the cell and show your face at once. Am I? Am I a cat, as yet with no name? Calling me by a number, it's utterly, unbelievably, unjustly, unreasonable. I refuse to answer. Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think is going on here? I have no idea, but I wasn't just hearing things, was I? The tirade of complaints was in Japanese. Excuse me, but who... Shh, quiet. They're all around, hiding. I know they are. They're watching, listening. Even now, I can sense it. Right, so could I ask you who exactly... There you are. You've come to curse me, haven't you? Don't try to hide it, you're a ghost. A ghost? We mean you no harm, Prisoner-san. Are you... Japanese, by any chance? This is... beyond my wildest dreams. Forgive me for that outburst before. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's fine. We were just a little surprised, that's all. Imagine it. It's been 12 long months since I left my hometown, and here I am, in a frightful fix in a foreign land. So hearing the sweet, sentimental tones of a compatriot's voice here in this damp, dark hellhole was a most monumental, moving moment. He likes his alliteration, doesn't he? His frightful fix. Who could have guessed that this new client Lord Strongheart assigned to us would turn out to be a fellow Japanese? Ah, what compassion my fellow countrymen show! To dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to defend a mere foreign student. Noble, nurturing, never-failing Nippon. Ah, first-class lawyer? Oh dear, I think there's been something of a misunderstanding here. I wonder, would you be so kind as to tell us what's happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example. Yes, I can, I will. Can't stay sullen and silent. I'm not quite sure I understand what he means, but seems happy. Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be. Thank you for your cooperation. I'm a lawyer, as you said. My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. And I am Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. I am a visiting student sent here by our government, notoriously named Natsume. Soseki Natsume. Alright, let's converse.
Let's get to find out about him and why he's here.
Yes. Soseki Natsume-san. What an unusual name. Call me Soseki, please. I'm a poet, you see, a writer of haiku. It's something of a nom de plume. A nom de plume? You mean an alias? That's right, Naruhodo-san. No, don't be so prosaic. It's much more refined than that. And haiku? That really reminds me of home. Did I hear you say that you were a visiting student sent over here by the government? Yes, that's right. A year ago I was told to go and study English. First I had to suffer that misery. And now this is beyond the pale. Suffer that misery? Did you not want to study here? No, I mean, I've had an interest in Great Britain for some years, of course. Oh. But just because the government tells you to do something doesn't mean you can do it? No! What do you mean? If they told me to study English literature, that I could have understood, that's my field. But no, they told me to study the English language. Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable. I see. Only the other day I was told to send a report about my first year here. I tendered a blank piece of paper. Wise words on whitewashy. You must be a man of great standing. Oh yes, so I'm often told. And often like to be told, it seems. Alright, accusation. Could you perhaps tell us exactly why you've been arrested, Soseki-san? I didn't do it. I didn't commit that atrocious murder. Murder? Oh, no, it's all right. The woman didn't actually die, did she? But she was stabbed with a knife right before my eyes. Before your eyes? You mean you saw the attacker? I didn't see anyone. What? If I'd seen the person who did it, do you think I'd be locked up in here? Oh dear, it seems this case is becoming rather complicated. Why me? Why me? Why did that silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? It's the curse of London. It's incredibly, inexcusably, irritatingly inconvenient. Soseki-san was there at the scene, but he didn't see the attacker. It's vital that we find out more about the case. It was an accursed evening, just after the snow had started to clear and heavy with fog. I'd been to the bookshop to buy some books, and I was on my way to my accursed lodgings. Sure, the bookshop wasn't accursed too. As I was walking along the accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman, wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. How terrible. I called out to the woman, but she didn't move. It was like a ghostly, ghoulish, grim graveyard. Slight exaggeration there, perhaps. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me back to my accursed lodgings. That's not good. They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that. Tell me, Soseki-san, was the victim an acquaintance of yours? Don't be ridiculous. Do you think I know any of these fair-haired English, and a young woman at that? I'm diffident, shy, timid, unsure, I can't talk to people. I see. A young woman unknown to Soseki-san. And at the time it happened, who else did you see nearby? Did anyone pass you? Regrettably, apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul. No one? Oh, great. So the victim was unknown to you, and there was nobody else on the street at the time. That creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it? Huh? What conundrum? What do you mean, Sasadu-san? What's the conundrum? Well, if what Soseki-san has just told us is true, there's something I can't explain. He says that he didn't know the victim, and that there was no one else at the scene. And then he apparently fled without having been seen. I did. But if that's the case, surely this man has to be the culprit. Are you... What did you just say? Nothing. I didn't say anything. Oops, perhaps I thought a little loudly. Actually, that's not what was troubling me. What I was thinking was, how did Soseki-san actually come to be arrested? Sorry? He didn't touch the victim, and there was nobody at the scene to see him. So how did the police ever discover that he was there in the first place? Oh yes, she's right. It was him. The cursed great detective. He led the police to me. Of all the bad luck, a cursed great detective, could it be? I shall never forget that man's name as long as I live. With his haughty laugh and his self-proclaimed greatness, brash, big-headed busybody, be gone. May you be cursed until the end of your days, Herr Schlock Sholmes. I knew it. Mr. Sholmes? Well, I didn't expect to hear that name from this man's lips, that's for sure. It was the morning after the nightmare had unfolded on the pavement before me. I was gnawing on a sliver of hard cheese when some men suddenly burst in through the door. They started shouting at me. This is the police! Put the weapon down! Yes, it was a thin sliver, and yes, it was hard, but I wasn't eating a weapon. Disgusting dietary discrimination devils. You clearly had a trying morning yesterday. And there he was in the middle of all the policemen, grinning like a...
Cheshire Cat.
Cheshire Cat. I should know that. Yeah. That Sherlock Sholmes. It's actually just Sherlock Sholmes. He's English. I've since found out that he's a famous name in detection here in London. Yes, the great detective is really very well known. and his overly sharp mind managed to deduce my whereabouts, apparently. He thinks I'm a knife-wielding madman. Me? This weak, stupid kitten of a man? I wonder what great deduction process led him to his conclusion this time. Ooh, do you mean to say that Mr. Sholm's deduction was the only reason the police arrested you? That would be really most unreasonable. Well, the thing is, I was thrown into a panic when they barged their way in. Of course you were, that's only natural. I was terrified and trembling, and they kept throwing question after question at me in impossible English. Fiendish foreign flim-flammery. Well, we are in England. You can't really blame them for questioning you in English. Good point, but my mind went blank. I knew I had to answer, but I didn't know what to say. So I just kept repeating things like, yes, I do, and I'm fine. Next thing I knew, I was in manacles. And before I knew it, I was thrown in here. Oh dear, I'm afraid that's hardly surprising. I'm fine. He's not fine now. Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. Oh, you can just call me Naruhodo. And when we're speaking English, a simple Mr. is more than enough. Oh yes, I'm alright, yes. They've really got to me. This country is poisoning my mind. But please, I beg you to defend me in court tomorrow. You can tell them what really happened. You'll do it, won't you? Well, why? Why is it so hard to say yes to me? Well, the thing is, I'm just a student like yourself, on a study tour. A student? I have defended a case in the Old Bailey, only the one, though. But at this moment in time, I really don't know what I'm supposed to believe in. I'm confused about what justice in this country even means. Oh, Naruhodo-san. I'm not even the foreign student who was supposed to be here. I am a sort of locum lawyer, I suppose. But that armband, that's the mark of a defense lawyer from our great empire. It's a keepsake from the man who should have been here. He was my best friend. A keepsake? I know exactly what they're saying about me. Oh, who do you mean? The lawyers, all the British defense lawyers, they won't defend me. Goodness, why? Why do you say that? For the same reason as you noted before, when it happened, there was only the victim and myself around. I ran away from the scene of the crime. I'm not a fool. I know it looks as though I must be the culprit. It must be very hard for you, Soseki-san. And anyway, I'm a student from overseas. I'm just a foreign nobody to them, someone not to be trusted. I heard them openly laughing about me before, in my earshot without any compunction at all. Any trial for this man would be a waste of time, they said, and of course the foreigner did it. There's a lot of that in the game.
Seems like it.
They even had the gall to say the man doesn't understand half of what's being said anyway. That's awful. They're wrong. I've studied more English than half the policemen out there on the streets. I've traveled halfway around the world to learn about these people's country, and it's great history. But no one here wants to listen to a man with a strange accent. They all hate me. So, at the very least, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who can listen to me in my native tongue. You could do it, couldn't you? When I look into your eyes, I can see it. I can see what you've been through. Soseki-san, it's just that... Give me a little time, please. I'll do what I can for the time being. What do you mean? We shall investigate the case as thoroughly as possible. If we can find some clues, it will give us a much better chance, I'm sure. Oh, yes, thank you. I'll be here, all alone, waiting for you, locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. We should be going then, Naruhodo-san. We have a case to prepare for. Alright. Time to investigate the scene of the crime.
People let us?
They should. Or else. Let me have the rest of this tea. Let me just blow my nose really fast.
Kitty, what are you watching?
Is is it just me? Or does that red building look like the windows are just brick walls?
They are, and that bicycle's front tires
It's flat, yeah. Whoops. So this is where it happened. Briar Road. Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo. Look at that regulation metal helmet. It's unmistakable. The men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak. That is their job, you know. But Mr. Naruhodo, to see one with my own eyes. They're often depicted in The Adventure of Herlock Sholmes, but I never dreamt I'd ever come this close. To a real Bobby's helmet. What, the helmet? Hee, of course. I have to try one on one day. Well, I hope your Hattie dream comes true. What's the Japanese delegation doing here? Oh, Inspector Gregston. This isn't on the tourist trail, as I'm fairly sure you're well aware. Yes, of course, we're here to investigate. So you've been to the holding cells, then. What did you make of the criminal? He's not a criminal, as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect. We'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. It doesn't bother me. The bloke's in court tomorrow, whatever happens, and the verdict's a foregone conclusion. Ah, the stone-cold air of rejection. Take heart, London at this time of the year is full of stone-cold air. That makes it worse somehow. Okay, so, can we talk differently? Yes. But let's examine some stuff. Like the snowman. What a delightful snowman. I didn't realize the English had a tradition of making snowmen as well. It looks a little creepy, though. Oh, it has a scarf, look. You need one if you're out in the freezing cold all the time. That was I had one. I'm afraid our budget is somewhat frozen at the moment, too. We certainly can't afford a scarf. Surely the snowman here wouldn't miss his. But the person who made the snowman certainly would. Yes, I know, you're right. Anyway, even if I borrowed it, it wouldn't do much to warm my neck, would it? It's covered in snow. I like how she knows what we're thinking. Oh, that's a Scotland Yard carriage. They use vehicles like that to rush to crime scenes and cart away criminals. You're very well informed, aren't you? It's long been a dream of mine to admire one of those through the streets of London. Well, I'll just pick up a stone and throw it through one of the windows then. But that would mean being arrested in order to ride it. Wouldn't it? Still, if it's the only way, help me find a good stone. No, I wasn't serious. She's so cute. That's one of the officers from Scotland Yard. Police were making sure the crime scene is undisturbed. I have a feeling that if we wander too close, we'll be clapped in irons. I think perhaps you're being a little overcautious. We've done nothing wrong, so we have no cause for concern. Oh no, I'm not getting caught out again. Twice is enough. Twice I found myself in handcuffs despite not knowing a thing about what was going on. Yes, you've had some dreadful experiences. I'm sure it's that wide-eyed look of panic you're so prone to. It does you no favors at all. Ugh. This patch of pavement must be where the incident occurred. Yes, it's a very wide open space, isn't it? That's true. I can't see anywhere an attacker could have been hiding. Oi, what are you foreigners doing here? Ag. Oh, we, just investigating the scene, officer. Conspiring with that mustache fella from Japan, are ya? Conspiring? Come here to destroy evidence, have ya? Get out of here before I give you an hiding. Go on. He shoot us away like rats. Yes, we should give him a wide berth, I think. What a disappointing experience. Let's talk with him first and See what Gregson has to say. You okay? Alright, let's do it. Scotland Yard. Tell us about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in The Adventure of Herlock Sholmes, I've been fascinated by the place. The Yard is the most sophisticated policeman organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am. Oh, and you know I've always dreamed of wearing a real Bobby's helmet. It does make them look the part. Seeing that policeman there with his helmet on, you certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful? Being a London Bobby is hard going, I can tell you. Oh really? First thing in the morning, you know what he does? He goes round and rouse all the laborers on his beat so they can get off to work. What? He wakes people up? Yep. Raps on their windows with a long pole, did it myself, going back a bit. I had no idea. The Bobby works for the people of the town. It's just another one of the duties, or his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance. I really can't imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. Let me see. 20 miles, that's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. And when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps. Oh my. And I suppose in between all those duties, Bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well. And chase after criminals trying to evade the law. I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. We do have men keeling over from time to time, I admit. I'd always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo. Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do. Also, I don't think I checked how old Gregson is. 44. Strongheart's 52. So Seki is 33. Surely doesn't look 33. Is that the case? It happened at around 5 in the evening 2 days ago. Just there on an open bit of pavement, the victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind. Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in hospital. I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all. I suppose that means I haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want. Really? Are you sure? It's Yard policy to give lawyers, defendants, suspects the odd bit of information to go on. I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept. The local map has been entered into the court record. Anyway. Okie doke. As far as we know, there was no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So who did it, do you think? Not much of a head-scratcher, is it? Well, I know Mr. Natsumi is also claiming not to have seen anyone else around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean we can be sure that nobody else was present. I'm sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure. How? Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. It what? We have 2 very reliable witnesses, no less. Also, there were people there. Ah. It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see them. There were witnesses now? Who are these witnesses, Inspector? A fellow and his wife? And the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all of London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard. Ah. A policeman? That might change things. And this policeman, Just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked. Nothing peculiar about that, man. Part and parcel of being a bobby. Catching them bang in the act and all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions? Be my guest, you can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow. Oh. I have no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to. That's that, then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. A policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Oh yes, one more thing, Inspector. What? The person who led you to the suspect, I hear that was Mr. Sherlock Sholmes? Sherlock Sholmes. What are you bringing him up for? Was it something I said? The color has drained from his cheeks. Go. Tomorrow's trial. That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not? Well, makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London lawyer worth his salt would touch that case with a barge pole. Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. It is all a bit strange, though. Sorry? The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. Yes, we did hear something to that effect. The only people he usually bothers with are the real scum. The master criminals, the violent ones. Master criminals? The violent ones? That's right, he handpicks his victims. Only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. But Mr. Natsumi wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely. That's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So that isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase. Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's gotta be more to it. Some reason he's taken an interest. Really? What sort of reason, Inspector? You think I can tell what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial. Are we really going to have to face the Reaper again, the Lord of Darkness, as he puts it? Who did you hear that name from? Oh, it was Mr. Natsumi who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was the result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions. Fiddle-faddle. That man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. Oh, I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case. Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Gibble-gabble. Ah! Ever seen this before? Oh yes, that's Rance Magazine. That wonderful publication in which the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes appears. Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called Great Detective makes a mockery of all of us. Yes, anyone at the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Sherlock Sholmes tale at all. Well, I suppose there is an element of that. We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public thanks to that obnoxious detective. The man's as dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals. That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly the great detective and the police have a complex relationship. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective. Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion? Oh, yes, what is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. By him, do you mean
Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Horlock Sholmes, exactly. Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsumi did blame Mr. Sholmes for all of this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. The trouble is, we have no idea of the man's address even, so how... It's Baker Street! How do you know that? It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world. Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. You better try to find our way there before Susato-san gets any more excited and unpredictable. Hurrah! I'll summon a carriage. So we're going to have a reunion already with the great detective, Mr. Horlock Sholmes. New location. Oh, pinch me. I'm sure I must be dreaming.
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day. Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
First thing I notice, there's a letter in the back.
Knife to the wall.
With a knife to the wall. Why? And then he's got 2 cards by a map. But he's got a nice fireplace.
Is there a shoe on the fireplace in the mantle?
It looks like it, right? It looks like an elf shoe or something?
Yeah.
So this is where the great detective makes his living. It feels surreal to be here somehow. Is it as described in the stories, Mrs. Sato? Or Mrs. Sato? Sato-san? Many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. Never read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog, down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please don't mind me. Ha! She's obsessed. Well, it looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anybody home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Ah, there it is. Hello. Is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes? Hello. Wait. Aren't you? Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Mr. Sato, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case? The King of Boheria? King Wilhelm Gostrich Sigmund von Armstein, of course. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there. The tea's brewed and I have a freshly baked cake as well. Ah, it's you! I knew it. Susato-san recognizes her too. Yes, indeed. It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilded's trial in defendant's antechamber. I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London. Oh yes, it was challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know. Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color? Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. Hooray, it's a winner! I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Ah, how about that? Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you? Hurley? Mr. Sholmes to you, surely. Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, do you think? And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me, I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. So, she's our cat, apparently.
But we had an Iris in the last games, too.
Yes, we did. We did have an Iris in the third one. I live here together with Hurley.
I wonder if she's the daughter of the Wilson that was came to Japan.
Ah, Iris, isn't what a lovely name. What? What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden? Yes, that's right. And what are your names? Oh, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it. Susie? And Runo? There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her, I don't know where to start. Yes, and so do I. Alright, let's talk. Iris Wilson, your deductions. It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it, at the Old Bailey? Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful, thank you so much. Oh no, not at all. I'm sorry, we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though at the time, we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. Like this? Gulp. Ah, thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you? Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade. Oh, Ginny? Yeah, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that. Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption? Exactly, so I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions. This girl is dangerous. Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician? Hurley, of course, silly. Hurley? Yes, Herlock. Herlock Sholmes. We live here together. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter. Daughter? Not likely. What? I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate. Your roommates? I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10 at last this year. Well, what if your mother and father? Oh no, they're not around. Oh, I see. I wonder what the story is there. Let's ask about the last name. Oh yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course, go ahead, Susie. I am a very great fan of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and oh, you have a copy of Rance Magazine? Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting. My stories are being read on the other side of the world. My stories? That's right. Hurley is always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness. Last night he was telling me all about a new case he had just solved on a steamship, traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you are the author? Yes. I'll let you on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure The Speckled Band. The Speckled Band? That's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but it's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you? So, do you mean to say, are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in the Rance magazine all written by me? Yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Susato-san's getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true, too. I am a doctor of medicine. No, at 10 years old? At 10 years old. I mean, she does seem like a...
Spark.
Yeah, like a prodigy. Well, that's quite incredible. But, oh no, she's crying. Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the settings slightly for the stories to be more compelling. Oh. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes. Poor Susato-san. She looks like her whole world has just fallen apart. About before. Yes, what's on your mind, Runo? Do tell me. How did you know that I was a lawyer and we just arrived in London, I mean? Yes. Oh, and then we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did it, explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted, although there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present her Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, you know. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber. But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How'd you know that? I had heard a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Oh, so I was reasonably confident that you must only have just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Bailey? I walked right into that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you? Earlier today. Ah. They used those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realize. The red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So, that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial in Magnus McGilded, the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. It led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. I see. But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me that he caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. Japanese man? Well, clearly there must have been Mr. Natsume. Now, Runo has that fancy Japanese sword, and I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourselves, so I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley's always stabbing his nose with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Oh. Hold on a sec.
Alright, had to take that really fast. She went to brush her teeth, but we will be resuming shortly.
Are they going to make you come in the morning?
I'm gonna be okay. Ready? Well, was it a winner? Or are my deductions correct? They were spot on. That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed to discern something in Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Oh, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This is really very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris, please? So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying? Yes. Hurley had just arrived back in London after his sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking, stooped man. Mr. Natsume, beyond any doubt. Soseki-san said that he didn't see anybody else on the street at all. But it seems there are witnesses after all. Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room, very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man shivering in fear. Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark this time. Of course it did, he's a great detective. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it? Definitely, we have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh, Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear, I hadn't realized the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is, but in that case, I don't hold much hope for Soseki-san.
Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative. Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well. Ah, well, I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene. Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, Mr. Natsume? Hurley said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there? Yes, we know Inspector Gregson. Oh, goody. In that case, give Gregsy this for me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know. What is this? A 5-shilling piece on a postcard, it seems. Iris's postcard has been entered into the court record. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust there won't be a problem." Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it? Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Good luck, then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. And I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime. So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all, we headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand.
Do you go to the lodger to see the crime?
We're going to the scene of the crime so we can give it to him, and then I guess he can tell us everything.
He said he could find Holmes at the lodger.
Yes, but we have to give Gregson the envelope.
Okay.
So, we got to do it. Of course, it seems kind of shady that he's being paid. It looks as though the police are still here, carrying on with their investigation. Perfect. Let's find Inspector Gregson as quickly as possible. Yes, and let's see if he'll take a break from his chips to look at that silver tip Iris gave us for him. Inspector Gregson, do you have a moment? I'm sorry to say I don't. I'm a very busy man. Much too busy to talk to a pair of foreign gadabouts, that's for sure. We have these for you. A present from Miss Iris Wilson. What? For me? From her ladyship? Her ladyship? Give that here at once. Come on, hand it over. That's for me. Ah, don't wait for me to give it to you, will you? What was that coin exactly? It's a silver crown, obviously, but it's a lot more than that. It's, well, it's an appearance fee, that's what it is. An appearance fee? Oh, I see, you mean... That's right, for the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Her ladyship always offers me a little financial reward for featuring me every time. Yes, of course. I know all about your exploits, Inspector. I read them avidly. Of course, her using my name without my say-so does make me the butt of a lot of unpleasant jokes, but still... I am sorry, Inspector. That must be difficult for you. Never you mind that. So, what do you want to know then, eh? Sorry? Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust there won't be a problem, it says. Well, obviously it's not a problem. Go on, fire away. What do you want to know? Well, if you wouldn't mind, Inspector, we'd very much like to know the address of Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Ah, the little knife-wielding, mustached Japanese fellow. He lives in a right old hovel. It's just over there, look. On the first floor of that house on the corner where that wreck of a bicycle's propped up. That is nearby indeed. If I remember rightly, the landlord is a Mr. John Garridib? Garridib? Hey, wait a minute. So he used his deduction to cross the street.
Yeah.
Right, well, if you see her again, you make sure you give her ladyship my regards, you hear? So really, the deduction was just the witnesses saying he ran across the street. Don't worry, Inspector, we will. Goodbye for now, then. And long live her ladyship. Well, at least he told us what we wanted to know before he left. Yes, so then, shall we go and see what we can find in Mr. Natsumi's lodgings? Definitely. May I help you? Yes. Would this be the residence of Mr. John Garibdeb? Indeed it would, sir. And who may I say is calling? My name is Rinosuke Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo is representing Mr. Soseki Natsumi. I believe he takes lodgings here? We would very much like to ask him some questions about our client. One moment, please. I shall convey the message to Mr. Garibdeb. Did you see that, Miss Kusatu? That was a real-life English maid. I know. As I understand it, anyone of standing in English society employs a number of household staff. But that was the first time I've ever seen one in the flesh. Oh, this day keeps getting better. It certainly feels like we've really arrived now, doesn't it? We all need to meet a butler, and the experience will be complete. Well, I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but I understand the sentiment. Thank you for your waiting. Mr. Garibdeb will see you now. This way.
His head looks like a moon.
I know! Oh my god! And this just sticks out. That looks like a Medal of Honor, and it's showcased on a very grand banner. Yes, it's displayed with some pride, I would say, although it bothers me that it's not straight. What, that old thing? Sorry? I should be glad to see the back of it, but the General would turn in his grave if I disposed of it. The wall is the best place for it. It keeps the bally thing out of my way. So it's just been polished to shine by accident, I suppose. There appears to be an inscription on the medal itself. Look. Let me see. It says, for distinguished participation. Sounds like the kind of honors even I could be in line for. Well, one doesn't like to blow one's own trumpet, but I was given that for my time in the army. Can't measure an officer by the number of medals to his name, of course. Common knowledge in military circles. Oh, look! We've seen this before. Oh, look! What a wonderful collection of cakes lined up on that gleaming silver cake stand. Lined up. It looks more like someone has half demolished them to me. Afternoon tea is a time of indulgence, you know. It is quite the English way. It is Mr. Garibdeb's custom to take 2 cakes with his tea. That sounds delightful. Oh, wait a minute, though. There are at least 10 cakes on this cake stand. Well, naturally, and it would never do to waste the leftovers. So whatever Mr. Garibdeb doesn't eat, I say to myself, Joan, you shall have to tidy up. How magnanimous of you. Okay, well, let's just talk to him. Good day to you, John Garibdeb at your service. Pleased to meet you, sir. This is Rinosuke Naruhodo. He's a defense lawyer. Do excuse me not getting up. Took a shot to the knee a few years back in the Battle of Maiwand, don't you know. Earned a medal for my pains, but I had to withdraw from service. Handed over the reins to the up-and-comings. So he's a retired soldier. It's a hell of a job getting up and down stairs now, I can tell you. Don't get out much, as you can imagine. Yes, it's quite a climb up here to the 2nd floor, isn't it? I was panting at the top of the stairs. You really must take more exercise, Mr. Naruhodo. Do you think so? Oh, Mr. Garibdeb, no doubt you were very courageous to earn yourself a medal. Oh, it was nothing. The medal's just a folderol, really. Wouldn't like to offend the General, though, so I grudgingly displayed it on the wall. Why don't you fetch it down, Joan? Let these good people see it properly. Joan, fetch the... Ah! Dash it all, woman, be careful. Oh, dearie me, I do beg your pardon, sir. Oh, you jolly nearly took the skin off my hands. I shall be more careful, sir. So anyway, there you have it, living the quiet life now. Yes, I see. Now then, I hear you want to know about the chap lodging downstairs, is that right? Yes, we would be very grateful if you could answer some questions for us. Only too pleased, naturally, especially if it helps to keep the peace here in Blighty. We forged an alliance with the Empire of Japan recently, as I'm sure you're aware. So, this case is very much in the public eye, as it were. Oh, is it? Even had some famous detective poking around, you know. In this old house, would you believe? Yes, Mr. Horlock Sholmes. Huh. Could have been. Didn't catch the chap's name. Not really my cup of tea, all the detective business. Oh, but you have a copy of Rant's magazine here, so... him? Ah, no. Anyway, the chap's investigating the foreigner's room as we speak. So he's in Suseki's San's room. It's a bawling nuisance is what it is. The whole neighborhood's twitching its curtains now. I don't like all this fuss. It's jolly unsettling. Right. What would you like?
About him.
About Mr. Natsumi, then, Mr. Garudab. Please, do tell us. Ah, yes, the Japanese chap. Only been lodging here for a week. Oh, just 1 week? So he moved in very recently, then. I had 2 lodgers most of the time, one on the ground floor and one just below us. The first floor room became available a week ago, you see. There had been... Ah! Dash it all, Joan, do be careful. Oh my goodness, I'm terribly sorry, sir. If you want to know my opinion, I thought he was a shady sort from the moment I set eyes on him. Oh, why? He seemed to have a most nervous disposition, always shaking and looking over his shoulder. The man had shady written across his sweat-soaked brow, if you ask me. I said to myself, Joan, that man is trouble. Sooner or later, he's going to do something untoward. And I'm rarely wrong about anything. We won't be calling this man as a witness, that's for sure. Was there anything else that struck you as suspicious about the man at all? Yes, oh yes, indeed there was. And she's dying to tell us. Had you noticed anything else at all about your lodger, Mr. Natsumi? Oh my word, yes, the man was shadier than an orchard. Could you elaborate? Well, take the man's room. Absolutely stuffed full of books it is, more than anyone else could ever read, and he never so much as passes the time of day with another living soul. I haven't seen a single visitor call. He just trots off to that old bookshop every single day and comes back at 5 to light the gas fire. And the funny little man is up long past the time everyone else in the house has gone to bed too. Oh, I see. The gentleman on the ground floor goes to bed at around 9 each night. But I've never known the Japanese fellow to retire any earlier than 2 in the morning. Ah. Could you clarify something, I wonder? What, pray? How do you know so much about Mr. Natsumi's routine? Oh. I'd understood that neither of the lodgers live on this floor of the house, is that correct? That's right, yes. They're both below us on the first floor and street level. Geez, what about Sholmes, too? Then how is it that you know so much about the lives of your lodgers? The precise times that they come back in the evening, for example, even the times they go to bed. Ah! Good grief, Joan, be more careful, woman. Oh my goodness, sir, I'm terribly sorry, sir. Something doesn't add up here.
Every time she doesn't want to answer something, she
burns him, yeah.
burns him.
It seems that the incident took place at around 5 in the evening. Did you happen to look out of the window at around that time? The window? Yes, we noticed that the window over there looks out over Briar Road. The incident took place on the pavement just on the far side of the street. Was there anyone suspicious loitering nearby? 5 o'clock was dinner time in the Garudeb household, so I'm afraid I don't remember seeing anything. How about you, Joan? No, sir. It would have been dusk outside already at that hour. But with the fog as well, I should think it would have been quite impossible to see the other side of the road. Oh, I see. Did you notice anything else out of the ordinary, then? Such as? Anything at all, even if it seems unrelated. Well, yes? Was there something, then? Well, it's nothing particularly significant, but around that sort of time in there... Ah! For the love of God, Joan, watch what you're doing. Oh, dearie me, what have I done? I'm awfully sorry, sir. Do be more careful, woman. Of course, sir. If I may, Mr. Narrow Hollow? Oh, yes? I have an exceedingly good memory, and as far as I remember, nothing of any significance took place here at that hour, nothing at all. Oh, really, Mr. Garrideb? The way you were talking before, it sounded rather like there might have been. Oh, well, as I was saying, it was just a trifling matter. Look at her! Joan Daffodil, what's the matter with you, woman? Begging your pardon, sir. Nothing happened. Oh, yes, quite. Nothing happened. We sat down to a quite uneventful meal. Joan? That's right, Mr. Garrideb. What is the matter with these two? Sounds like something happened here in this room on the evening of the incident, but what? I wish I knew. This is why I don't trust people whose face look like a moon. Could you tell us which floor Mr. Natsumi's room is on? Why, certainly, just below us on the first floor. And Mr. Sholmes is investigating there, even as we speak. Yes, told me Nat's name, had asked him to look into the matter, so I gave him the key. Mr. Natsumi has engaged Mr. Sholmes' services. That's a blatant lie. It would be alright if we had a look around, in Mr. Natsumi's room, I mean. Don't see why not. It's just down one flight of stairs. Who knows if we'll find anything that could help us with the case, but we have to try. We need all the clues we can lay our hands on, shall we? Yes, and while we're there, we can speak with Mr. Sholmes again. Perhaps he'll be able to tell us more. Let's see. Is there anything else?
Was a cannon?
Yeah, I was about to say, let's... That's a full-size cannon. What's it doing in here? Oh my, it's real. I thought it might be a replica.
You're a dress like it?
That old thing? Bah, that's a little more than a toy. Sorry. The army was selling it off when I retired, so I decided to give it a new home. Never know when the enemy might attack next. Jolly useful to have a cannon about the house. Really? It isn't overkill? Be prepared, I always say. You never know what this twisted world is going to throw at you next, boy. Do you think there may be trouble brewing, Mr. Garrideb? Always is. Take Joan here. Never fails to have a clean apron in reserve. Dries them over the barrel, you see. They dry very well on the cannon there, Joan tells me, which rather proves my point, I feel. It's been reduced to a drying rack. No wonder the huge cannon looks like it's hanging its head in shame. That uniform looks fairly ancient, doesn't it? It's clearly been well looked after, though. That old thing? Bah, not much better than rags, really. Oh? Wore that ceremonial garb in my retirement bash, you know. But I'm not one for dwelling on the past. Me would have gladly thrown it out, but you know how it is. Anyway, it doesn't hurt to have the odd piece of memorabilia lying around, does it? Oh, I see. Perhaps we should leave the past in the past.
What's on the floor?
That's an enormous screen. It must have been put there deliberately, surely. Yes, it certainly seems like someone trying to hide something from view. What could be behind it, I wonder? I'm going to have a very quick look, just a little peek. Ahem, ahem. Maybe let's not, Miss Susato. I think the maid is going to head us off with a cup of tea. Ahem, ahem. Okay, so...
Can't select it.
Can't select it. Look at this crockery on display here. It's rather unusual, isn't it? Oh my, a genuine London dresser. Isn't it delightful? Although the shelves seem to be broken, and the crockery is, oh dear, it's in pieces. It really is. The word crack wouldn't do that chinaware justice. I wonder. Perhaps the cannon was fired at it. Yes, probably something like that, but let's not delve too deeply here. Okay.
Oh my.
Oh, kitty!
I'm kidding.
Oh, it looks like our cat Iris. Well, just look at this place. And smell it. It's so musty in here. I suppose it's the mountains of old books that are responsible for that. Where are we going to find Sholmes hanging around? I don't think I've ever seen so many books in all my life. No, me neither. It's so dark in here, too. Is that the window over there? Yeah, remember I was saying that? Well, it was the window, I think. Yes, once upon a time. But for some reason it's been closed up with bricks and mortar. So this is where Mr. Natsumi lives. By the way, I haven't spotted Mr. Sholmes anywhere, have you? No, that's true, but according to what Mr. Garrett told us, the great detective should be around here somewhere investigating. Look at those books stacked up there. They almost reach the ceiling. They're all works of English literature, and they all smell so musty. With this volume of books to hand, you'd never be short of reading material, would you? No, what a dreamy idea. A bad dream, maybe, for me at least. Mind you, I don't imagine the book that's at the bottom of the pile now will ever be read again. Ah, so reading it is an experience that comes but once in a lifetime, just as the tea ceremony teaches us. I certainly didn't expect the conversation to turn down the path of tea ceremony philosophy. Alright, let's see what's up with the cat. Oh! Aww! Oh, she's a friendly one.
She laughed.
Oh my, what an adorable little cat. Perhaps he's looking after all the books while his master's away. I don't know about that. He disappeared into that pile of books as quick as a flash. It was a tricolor Mikey, wasn't it? Do they even have that sort of cat here in Great Britain? Perhaps Mr. Natsumi brought the little creature with him from Japan. That's made me feel homesick now. Already? We've only been in the country for 2 days. Oh, another cat item. Oh, look, it's a beckoning cat from home. It's a bit big and bulky, isn't it? Surely Mr. Natsumi didn't bring that Maneki Neko all the way from Japan with him. I hardly think you're in a position to comment, Mr. Naruhodo. Are you forgetting the enormous Daruma doll that you brought in your luggage? Well, it can be dangerous traveling abroad. I wanted the Lucky Charm. Well, I imagine that Mr. Natsumi wanted the same, and this cat is sure to beckon good luck to him. It's not doing a very good job so far, is it? You mustn't say such things. I didn't say a word. Why are my eyes such a giveaway? That desk seems to be wedged into a crevice between the mountains of books on either side. I suppose Mr. Natsumi would sit there and read while stroking his cat. But surrounded on all sides by those towering old tomes, surely he dreamt of books every night as well. Yes, he must have done, mustn't he? Oh, what's this? It's a receipt from a second-hand bookshop. Your books. Ah, yes, Mr. Natsumi's name is on it. Look, and the date of purchase. Ah, 2 days ago at 4:45 p.m. That's the day of the incident. That's just a short while before he was embroiled in the terrible attack. He must have been on his way back from buying some old books. The receipt discovered in Mr. Natsumi's room for some books that he had purchased from a second-hand bookshop before the incident occurred. The sum of 2 shillings, tendered in receipt of the picture of Monsieur Lecoq, a meal for Gabriel, Canterbury Yearnings. I am totally butchering some of those names, but I'm trying. Alright, what's with the window? Could you even call this a window? I think so. It was a window at one time, after all, although all that remains is a frame around some bricks now. So really, it's just a wall then, isn't it? Why would anyone deliberately brick it up like that? I'm afraid I have no idea. Ah, perhaps Mr. Natsumi painted the brick design on in a fit of whimsy. Ah, that's alarmingly feasible. Anyway, whatever the reason, the lack of ventilation in here makes the place very oppressive. It does. I imagine being cooped up in a room like this would be extremely trying. Where'd you go, kitty? Ah, there you are. Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo. Aha, there he is. Where did he appear from? He seems to be engrossed in the pages of an old book. I hope you won't mind if we disturb him. Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, you two, good day. Now, let me see. Where was it that we met? Oh, Mr. Sholmes. We were together at the SS Buria. Yeah, yes, of course, the Buria. And let me see, what happened on that voyage? It was Kazuma Osogi. He died tragically, but you were a great help to us. Ah, yes, but of course, the case of Mr. Osogi. It was the one with the snake, wasn't it? Oh. Well, you seem to remember something of it, at least. What an honor to be remembered vaguely by the great Earl Axel. This is Mr. Oh, no, my dear madame, hold your tongue. I pride myself on my superior powers of recollection. Your names were safely recorded in my brain addict. Miss Naruhodo? And Mr. Susato. Hey, that's close. Try the other way around, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, ha, ha, I lose the first round. In truth, I'd hoped to invite you both to my Baker Street suite the day we arrived in London, but some startling yarders ambushed me at the railway station and whisked me away to a crime scene. It was an entirely trivial case, of course. I solved the matter in no more than 30 minutes. So they apprehended Soseki-san in that short an amount of time. I'm afraid the pursuance of a new case has dulled my recollection of my past involvements a little. A little? It is a mistake to think that one's brain attic has elastic walls and can distend to any event. I do my best to forget useless facts, lest they should elbow out the useful ones. Yes, those are my own words of inimitable wisdom, you know, from an adventure entitled A Study in Scarlet. Please, there's no need to quote yourself. I don't always remember my pearls of wisdom, but fortunately my associate pens them beautifully. He means Iris, I suppose. Mr. Sholmes, we have some extremely important questions to ask you about the trivial case you just mentioned. Goodness, what an earnest expression. My dear madame, I should only be too pleased, and this murky room is an apt place to discuss the murky case. Alright, let's talk about the dingy room. The dingy room. This room is thoroughly suffocating for the soul, my dear fellow. I assure you, any man whose lot is to dwell in a place such as this will stab somebody sooner or later. Mr. Natsumi has stabbed no one. Ah, but sooner or later, as I said. I don't believe that's the issue here. About this dark little room, Mr. Sholmes. Why is there no longer a window? Do you have any idea? No window? Well, I mean, I can clearly see that there is a window of sorts. But it's been completely blocked with bricks. Ah, I see. The answer to that question is quite simple. Window tax. Window tax? What is that? Surely not a tax on windows. Precisely that. Oh my goodness. Until relatively recently, a tax was levied on households in this country for the number of their windows. Those of lesser means, having inherited a sizable and costly family home perhaps, rapidly closed windows up, while the rich opened windows here, there, and everywhere, in an effort to curry favor with those in power by furnishing them with large sums of tax money. How awful and unjust, forcing people to live in rooms devoid of light. Indeed, disease was rife as a result. Some 40 years ago or thereabouts, the window tax was abolished. But its legacy remains, as you can see, in squalid lodgings such as these, for example. I suppose Mr. Natsumi's stipend for living here in London isn't very generous, perhaps? It would appear so. I've done a little digging and discovered that these lodgings were offered to an extraordinarily low price. At an extraordinarily low price. Because the room is so awful, I should think. Apparently, Mr. Natsumi only moved in here about 1 week ago. Yes, that's correct. However, I don't believe the low rent is explained by the shabby nature of the accommodation. Oh? Still, that is of little relevance here, a matter not worthy of further attention. Are you sure? I'm curious now. We know this to be the lodgings of a Japanese foreign student by the name of Soseki Natsumi. It seems that you assisted in this arrest, Mr. Sholmes, for the stabbing of a young woman outside here on Briar Road? Oh, Natsumi. Yes, I believe it was a name rather along those lines. Mr. Natsumi denies it. Was it really justifiable to arrest him on so little? I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but I have not the slightest idea what you mean. What? I can't believe he was looking Susato-san squarely in the eye while feigning ignorance. I assure you I am not merely feigning ignorance. It would appear as if the pair of you are under some misapprehension. Oh, how? I assure you I have no recollection of accusing your astute compatriot of the crime. But that doesn't make sense. The good detective of Scotland Yard made the following request of me, and I quote verbatim. We need you to ascertain the identity and whereabouts of a man seen fleeing the crime scene. Ah, a man seen fleeing. There were a number of books scattered on the pavement at the scene. From the book plates, I was quickly able to determine the bookshop from which they had been purchased. On speaking with the proprietor, I was immediately led to this address. Elementary, wouldn't you say? I believe there is a receipt around here somewhere from the establishment in question. So you don't think Mr. Natsumi is the culprit, then? That I could not tell you. But it was aggravating my faculties, hence why I returned here. However, this place is such a trove of fascinating books, I found myself quite lost in bibliophilia. Or bibliophilia? Maybe that's what it is. Do not be deceived into believing that I am a man of leisure. No, no, no. Oh dear. Ah, tell me. Have you encountered the landlord of these lodgings? It kind of saved me a little while, might as well. Yes, Mr. Garrett, a retired military man. It was the first time I've ever met a soldier from the great British institution that is the services. And it was the first time I've ever met a maid from the great British institution that is service. Ah ha 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 ha. I didn't think it was that funny. I do apologize. As you may well be aware, many households in London employ a maid. Yes, I read as much in my Great Britain primer. And so conversely, whether or not a household employs a maid has come to betoken the social standing of those dwelling therein. Betoken their social standing, sorry? Put simply, my dear fellow, those who employ at least a single maid are considered middle class. Those who do not are beneath that. In the upper echelons of society, of course, households employ enough staff to constitute a large family. Goodness, how extraordinary. As you can appreciate, for those on the precarious boundary between the middle and lower classes, being able to afford just one maid is of the first importance. I had no idea. It is for precisely that reason that I find great stimulation in the situation upstairs. Specifically in the retired Army veteran, Mr. John Girodeb. Oh? Affable as he is, the fellow is hiding something. Whether or not it imposes on the circumstances of this case, I am, as yet, unable to ascertain. I'm thoroughly lost on what he means to say. Well, I believe I've told you all I can now. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Was it not your intention to become a practitioner of law? You remember that, did you? Will you perhaps be offering your services in this very matter, I wonder? To the occupant of this room, Mr. Natsumi, was it? I'm not sure. Not sure on what grounds. Well, I actually defended someone in court here only yesterday. Really? Well then, I congratulate you, sir, on an ambition realized, and so promptly, too. The thing is, it's really made me question things. Am I right to believe in my clients, to trust in their innocence? Yes, trust. Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Natsumi didn't do it, did he? Ah, ha, ha, ha. My dear fellow, I haven't the first idea. Oh, but I thought that's why you were here. Didn't you come back to investigate? Ah, yes, that was indeed my initial intention. But there are simply too many fascinating books here. I couldn't possibly ignore them. Oh, I see. Nevertheless, there are two facts that I can state quite unequivocally. The man who fled the scene of the crime 2 days ago was the Japanese occupant of this room, and there are witnesses who swear to having seen the same man commit the crime. That is all I can say. Ah, and one more thing. Oh, what is it, Mr. Sholmes? Tell us. I cannot say without any certainty whether or not it is of relevance to this case, but I am quite sure that the retired army man who owns this property is hiding something. Mr. Garrideb is. Mr. Sholmes said as much before, actually, didn't he? Anyway, at present, that is really all that plays in my mind in relation to this case. Mr. Naruhodo, as yet our investigations have uncovered nothing that could help establish Mr. Natsumi's innocence. No, you're right. Perhaps it's time we probed a little deeper into Mr. Garrideb's secret. Just remember, I cannot be sure whether the landlord's secret will prove to be of relevance or not. But I wish you every success, of course, Mr. Naruhodo. A busy man indeed. He's gone back to his book in the corner of the room. Yes, indeed. I miss the cat.
Me too.
Ah, you pair again. Tell me, was the detective chap, I forget his name, still hard at work down there? Mr. Herlock Sholmes? Ah, yes, rings a vague bell. All the detective business isn't really my thing, I'm afraid. Well, Mr. Sholmes is in his element down there. Jolly good show. Another cup of tea, if you please, Joan. Now then, why don't you tell me what... Ah! For the umpteenth time, woman, will you watch what you're bally well doing? I shall be serving dinner shortly, sir. Ah, yes, of course. Frightfully rude of me, but I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to take your leave, if you'd be so kind. Oh, yes, of course. We are deeply grateful for all your assistance. Not at all, not at all. Don't get much chance to talk with young foreigners like yourselves. It's been a pleasure. Best of luck and all that. Perhaps you could see yourselves out? According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Garrideb is hiding something, and since no other avenues of investigation seem open to us at the moment, perhaps we should do some digging. Something got added here, I think. Yeah. What's he doing over there? Mr. Sholmes? Aha, we meet again, my dear fellows. Good gracious, when did you sneak in here? Herlock Sholmes, sir, at your service. Whatever were you doing by the window? I was given to watching the evening sky as the sun sets, madame. Yet, sadly, cheerful as the room downstairs undoubtedly is, it lacks an aperture of such observation. So I took the liberty of borrowing a small corner of space by the window up here. Oh, well, keeping an eye to one's window at dusk is the prudent thing to do in London, I'm gathering. Ah, and one other thing, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, me? I thought perhaps you might be in need of a certain great detective's great mind. Wait, he's not talking about Izzy? I didn't expect to be going through that again so soon. Do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? There's a mighty secret in this modest room. My eyes see even the most trivial of trifles. I take it you're prepared, Mr. Naruhodo? I think so. There is just time enough for one of my greatly admired great productions. Let's conclude the matter before dark. Mr. Garadeb, though it would seem you are a military man of considerably distinguished service, your standing as a landlord is most certainly not what one might call first-rate. I'm afraid, sir, that is all too clear to me. There are two conclusions I've been able to draw by careful observation of your living arrangements. I beg your pardon? The first is that even as we speak, you are concealing the presence of a ferocious beast in your care. Eh? And the second is that as a result of the beast's violent rampage, you have lost something very dear to you. Mr. Naruhodo, look. The old man's broken out in a cold sweat. Unbelievably, it seems Mr. Sholm's conclusions are both spot on. How could you possibly... How could I possibly know, you mean to inquire? The answer couldn't be simpler, sir. For in the dense jungle of logic and reasoning, I am the king of beasts. And I know only too well that wild beasts are not easily tamed. So, shall we begin? Once again, Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Time to correct some stuff. Nature of the beast. It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see that a fearsome beast has been on the rampage of late within these four walls. Thus, we are faced with the question, what form might this beast take? Ah, for a man with a military breeding, your eyes are uncommonly candid. Your furtive glance, Mr. Garadeb, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by the lion statue. Yes, though an army man, you appear unimposing at best. In fact, it has fueled your admiration for the mighty lion, the king of beasts. What is this piefle, I ask you? In the end, your admiration became so great, in fact, that you had a living, breathing specimen shipped from India, which you tried to keep in this very house. What? Yet living with such a wild beast proved more difficult than you had imagined. The chilling traces of a wild rampage are still very much in evidence. Well, yet as we look around, the beast in question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to? Madame? Me? I pray you do not consider me unchivalrous, but it is plain to me with one glance in your direction. It is? Your dress pocket gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. For protruding from it is a handbill advertising a circus show. Ah. Yes, you sought to dispose of this terrifying lion, Mr. Garadeb, at Batty's Circus, a traveling show currently sojourning in a nearby park. I have observed the tents. You sold the savage lion, sir, to the circus troupe. I most certainly did not. I believe I have made my point. The fearsome beast which ran amok in this room was an Indian lion, and a simple visit to the circus now will reveal the lion prancing jubilantly through a ring of fire. That's the worst deduction ever. Now, Mr. Garadeb, it is plainly clear that you still have deep feelings for this formidable beast. Indeed, in that blithe pose, the distress that this loss has caused you is veritably tangible. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders, the pain you feel being revealed by that supporting arm. Amid fits of tears, you let your beloved beast go. The strain of losing something so dear to you is clearly visible in your visage. Nonsense, man, I simply... But what, we must now ask ourselves, is the true cause of this pain? And we need only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. Yes, it is the pile of bills that has given rise to the pain you suffer. Every envelope contains another demand for payment. For cartloads of meat, potatoes, wheat, and tea. Indeed, feeding your beloved has had a devastating impact on the financial circumstances of your household. And so you had no choice but to let it go. Yes, well, Now, in a final fit of rage, the ferocious beast carried out one last and unimaginable attack. Unimaginable? The aftermath of which can be clearly seen by observing the carpet over there. A very expensive woolen carpet, if I'm not mistaken. Oh dearie me. What could have caused such a destructive outburst? This time, madame, I'm afraid it is you who has inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eye has settled upon the answer very neatly indeed. Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we need only look at the Tower of Cakes. Ah. There is no creature more dangerous on this earth than a beast with an unsatiated appetite. Was it or was it not once said by a certain noblewoman, if they have no bread, let them eat cake? Food is at the heart of all tragedy, in fact. Whatever do you mean? Having tired of the taste of cake, the beast began to stalk his next prey. I'm sure I need not spell out the nature of this final act of destruction carried out by the beast. There's only one logical conclusion. Worked into a frenzy by hunger, the lion attacked and ate the carpet. The teeth marks in the carpet are a perfect match with those of a lion I once saw in India. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this beastly puzzle. What is the matter with you, Joan? You're pouring scalding hot tea all over me. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Garrideb. I'm afraid I didn't notice. My deduction can be startlingly sharp. It stands to reason that your cup runneth over. Indeed, my revelations can make people spill tears at times, too. Oh. Mr. Sholmes, sorry to butt in again, but can I make an observation? Why, certainly, Mr. Naruhodo. What is it again? Well, your deductions just now. Do you really think a lion could have fit inside a room of this size? Indeed, it is the only explanation for the facts. The terrifying truth all too often lies beyond the realms of common sense. But wouldn't it be an idea to consider what lies inside the realms of common sense as well? But if an uncaged lion had run amok in this very room, surely Mr. Garrideb and his maid would have been hurt or worse. Ah, that's where you were stuck. No doubt the former military man held his own against the beast using that large cannon. I thought you said they sold the lion to the circus. And what about the food? Meat and potatoes are one thing. But I don't believe I have ever heard of a lion that drinks tea. Ah, my dear Mr. Sato. It occurs to me with some regularity that irrespective of race and breeding, whenever anyone lands on Great British soil, they are infused with a highly appropriate taste for afternoon tea. Oh, what a glorious notion. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, it's your turn to shine again. I had a feeling that was coming. A slight massage, that's all Mr. Sholmes' deductions need. You can do it. Excellent, I've been waiting for my trusty partner deduction to step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. We don't even know yet whether or not this is going to help in Mr. Natsumi's case. Still, uncovering the truth is always worthwhile, whatever the motivation. At least that's what I want to believe. Let us start again from the beginning. Herlock Sholmes, Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Okay. Everything's broken. Guy with the moon face is wondering what form the beast takes. And he looks up. And he sees the lion. But that's where it's wrong. I really didn't see the lion thing coming. No, but if you observe Mr. Garrideb's reaction, it rather seems as though some beast did indeed run amok here in this room. Yes, something with a very fierce nature. But it couldn't have been a lion transported from India. So what was it then? We must follow Mr. Garrideb's gaze that will lead us to the true answer. Mortar shells? These are shells for the cannon, are they? What a strange place to keep them. I imagine they have some significance to Mr. Garradev from his time in the army. Ah, of course, he mentioned a battle to us before, didn't he? Do you remember? He said he'd been shot in the knee. Perhaps it was one of these that hit him? If a round that size had hit his knee, there'd be nothing left of it, or Mr. Garradev for that matter. Mr. Sholmes has a Persian slipper. And this man had spent shells. Perhaps it's customary in Britain to display, well, rubbish on the mantelpiece.
What's behind the lion? The picture. Not that picture, that one.
What's this photograph? It appears to be from Mr. Garradeb's wedding. He looks very happy, doesn't he? He does, but you can't make out his bride. No, how unfortunate. Something must have struck the glass over this woman's face. I wonder what happened. Probably best not to delve too deeply there.
Did he pick up the lion?
What?
Did he pick the lion up?
Maybe, let's see. Well, this is the lion statue that Mr. Sholmes picked out. Yes, I wonder. Perhaps if he did live with a lion, it would prove to be a rather sweet companion. I think that's like a mouse trying to tell its family that the cat around the house is sweet. I suppose it is a bit of a flight of fancy, isn't it? Anyway, the beast we're looking for is something else. Let's have a good look around. So, would it be the angry thing, or picture, or the mortar shells?
The beast is him?
I don't know, I feel like he looked this way. I mean, there's definitely something to this.
Take that!
Nope. The true enemy of the beast that tore the room apart is these shells, with their butter-won't melt accomplice to cannon. But war is good for nothing and only brings destruction, something we must all strive to understand. That deduction was wanting in every way. Yes, I was wanting you to hear it. I'm quite proud of it. I find myself wanting never to have heard it. I'm quite pained by it, in fact. Oh, sorry. I'll try it again.
I think it's a picture of him.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, what we do know for certain is that a destructive creature has been at work in this room, and that Mr. Garrett had inadvertently looked in the direction of something that gives his identity away. Oh boy, okay. Yeah, I should have thought that through a little more. What? Behind the lion statue on the mantelpiece, almost deliberately hidden from view, is a photograph. Though I've yet to examine it in detail, I can assure you that it holds the answer. Because I employ an extremely advanced detection technique called jumping to conclusions, you see?
What did that say?
The deduction was wanting in every way. Yes, I was wanting you to hear it. Well, I guess that explains why neither of the two really jumped out at us as being correct, but...
Did you say?
I'm about to. Oh, whoops.
And nothing else lights up.
Everything else lights up, but we can't choose the statue again. I thought I was going to be able to save right there.
That's really odd.
I'm trying to rotate all around.
You can't go up or down.
No, that's what I thought. Maybe I was missing, but...
We've presented the show, we've presented the photo. I don't know.
Surely we can't pick this again.
This is difficult.
But there's nothing else to pick. I don't understand.
Those two mortar shells were thinking?
Yeah, but they're the same. They're both the mortar shells. There's no way we gotta play the lion statue again. That doesn't make sense.
Oh.
But literally nothing else is a choice. That's right. What? There's no beast more ferocious than the lion, and no lion that would unleash its ferocity in unfamiliar surroundings such as this. So it must have been a lion. No other proof is necessary. Are you quite concentrating? You've identified exactly what I did originally. Yes. So I have, sorry. Well, I do understand as intimidable as I am, people do like to try. But you won't make a great detective like that, nor even a great detective's assistant. Assistants, then. Alright, I think. Okay, let me see if I can. This is so strange. I don't understand what I'm missing here.
Neither.
So the teacher has been at work, and apparently looked. There's literally nothing else. Let me look at this again. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, when we looked at this, it stayed on it. See? The glass is broken so you can't see the bride's face at all, but no amount of cracks could hide the woman's plump form. I think powerful would be kinder than plump, Mr. Naruhodo.
That's the maid.
Yeah, yes, she certainly looks that. There's a lot of horsepower, not someone you'd want to upset, that's for sure. Oh, look, have you noticed her wedding ring? It's rather large. It's very large, isn't it? Yeah, that's an unusual design. It looks like some sort of embellished sunflower.
Take that!
There we go. The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by the newlywed bride. Precisely, Mr. Naruhodo. No other explanation could possibly fit. Yes, this frame print pictures your wife, Mr. Garrideb. And while we lament the fact that her face is obscured, we can still make our mighty arms. We can still make out her mighty arms and note the considerable horsepower they must contain. Indeed, surely any woman of such powerful constitution would be honored to be described as a beast. Honored might be stretching a point. Too late, the fact remains that the beast, which so clearly savaged this room, was your wife, Mr. Garrideb.
Got a mark on the side of his face.
Yes, he does. Which, like, I noticed before, but I guess I didn't really think of it.
I wasn't sure if it was a shadow or not.
The chilling traces of a wild rampage are still very much in evidence. Well, yet as we look around, the beast in question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to? Madame? Me? I pray you not consider me unchivalrous, but it's plain to me with one glance in your direction. It is... Your dress pocket gives it away, a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. Maybe we can look at her finger and see if she has that wedding ring. The poor and fragile, defenseless woman is beside herself. Well, I don't know about fragile. Oh dear. Anyway, Mr. Sholmes is quite right. There's no sign of Mrs. Garrideb anywhere. But it seems there may be a clue as to her whereabouts. A clue that this maid is trying to hide. I wonder where Mr. Garrideb's wife could be. There we go.
I wonder if the girl they killed is the maid.
Your wedding ring gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. Ah. Indeed it does. That flowery band gleaming on your finger gives you away. For it is identical to the one shown in the hand of Mr. Garrideb's bride in this photographic print. In other words, you are no ordinary household maid. No. You are Mr. Garrideb's lucky bride. You are Mrs. Garrideb herself. Oh my. Word! Well, jolly fine detecting, sir. As you rightly surmise, this is the wife, yes, my Joan. Rather let herself go, you might say, but she was a bally corker bag. Arr! It would appear that you don't live in the most comfortable of circumstances. After all, you are a retired army man, yet you are in the business of renting out rooms. Tisk. I would assume, therefore, you have insufficient means to employ a maid. Would that be correct? It's not right, I tell you. I was second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment. A man has his pride, don't you know? By golly, it's a sorry thing when a chap can't even afford to have a single maid in his employ. Yes, here in London one is rather judged. A household cannot be considered worthy of society if it employs no staff at all, though in my considered opinion, such concerns about appearances are a folly. You mean Mr. Garrideb has his wife work as his maid? Precisely, am I right, Mr. Garrideb? Only in company, obviously, but listen here. This must remain a secret. Tip-top secret, please. Well, we know this cannot be right whatsoever.
It looked like there was a candlestick down there, so I think it burned it.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Garrideb, it is plainly clear that you still have deep feelings for this formidable beast. Indeed, that by put the stress this loss has caused you is veritably tangible. The pain is revealed by that supporting arm. Mr. Sholmes is quite something. He's still calling Mr. Garrideb's wife a beast. Yes, as a woman, that feels rather uncomfortable. But Mrs. Garrideb is standing beside her husband as we speak. In other words, he hasn't lost his beloved at all, has he? Oh, how true. So perhaps that supporting arm that seems to be propping up his head has some other significance, then. According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Garrideb's pain is tangible, though. What could that pose of his really signify? And that's the wound. Yeah. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders, the pain you feel being revealed by that slapped cheek. And, of course, the deliverer of that impressive mark on your cheek that refuses to fade. Was you, Madame Joan Garadeb? Well, yes. You have been desperate to hide the slap mark on your cheek, sir. How the blazes? Did you work that out, man? Nothing escapes the notice of one trained in the art of observation, my dear fellow. That's why you haven't looked directly at us even once. To keep your other side from view. Well, Now, let's proceed to the next conundrum. Why were you subjected to such a violent slap? In other words, we must ask ourselves what caused Madame Garadeb to fly into a rage. And we need only look the direction of the gaze, and that's the bills. This pile of bills. No. Did Mr. Sholmes say that the bills were all for lion fodder? Yes, but now we've established that a lion never existed, which could only mean that the thing responsible for gobbling up all that food, Mr. Garadeb's wife. Mr. Naruhodo, she's a person, not a thing. Yes, well, she's also a person who gave her husband a mighty slap around the face, one so hard that it left a perfect hand mark, in fact. Yes, why would a woman want to hit her husband with such force, I wonder? I'd love to know the answer to that question. Ah, someone must be reading this book here at the moment. There's a bookmark here. Look! Mr. Garadeb is clearly an avid reader. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, the lipstick. I don't think this is a bookmark. Oh, no? So it isn't. It's a note written in a woman's hand. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary. And look next at the signature here. Lip marks made with lipstick. Oh, what a passionate and romantic gesture. Don't get any ideas, Susato-san. Oh dear, I'm sorry. So this bookmark is actually a love note then.
Take that!
Yes, it is a love note that has given rise to the pain you suffer. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary. Passionate indeed. Perhaps the sender of this note, a certain Miss Mary, is the fly in the ointment here. Boy, she is angry. Garr. But I don't know the Bali woman. You don't know her? That note wasn't written to me. It was just in the book. I don't know how it got there. It was just in there, you say? That's right, that's where I've been... Unlikely story. Now listen here, Joan, old thing. I explained at the time. I bought the book at that second-hand place, and the note must have already been in there. So the previous owner of the book was using the note as a bookmark, you mean? That's right, that's what I've been saying! Unlikely story. For heaven's sake, woman, look at the name. It's written to James. My name, in case you've forgotten, is John. Unlikely story. Are you questioning my name now? And there we have it. Arouse the suspicions of the female heart, and you unleash a beast with the most ferocious bite. Now, in a final fit of rage, unimaginable, and here's the bite marks. That's...
See, it's missing the candlestick. That's what's on the floor and burnt it.
Yeah. Yep, but there doesn't seem to be any doubt that the state of disarray that this room is in is resulted of her wild temper. Now that's true, so this is the last part of Mr. Sholmes' deduction that we need to fix. We only need to follow Mrs. Garadeb's gaze, and that will tell us the real answer. Alright, let's see what she can see. Yeah. So, let's look at it from the other point of view.
Candlestick. That or the one that's on the floor.
This looks like a very old candlestick, does it? The base looks too small. Surely it's very unstable. It looks to me like even the slightest knock would make it topple over. Oh dear, that would be dangerous. Wait, take a closer look at this. So, there's one candle missing. Yes, I didn't notice that before. Why is that, I wonder? Why is one candle to 3 missing from its holder? Yeah, because... the carpet here has been ripped to shreds. Yes, and according to Mr. Sholmes' deduction, the tears match those made by an Indian... or the tears match those made by an Indian lion's teeth exactly. Oh, look here. What is it? If you look closely at the edge, you can see scorch marks. Oh, yes, so you can, in that case. Perhaps the carpet wasn't eaten in the normal sense at all. Let's rethink with that in mind.
Take that!
Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we only need to look at the candlestick. Most illuminating, my dear fellow, and of course the only possible way out of this logical labyrinth. Yes, the remnants of a ferocious attack in which the carpet was devoured are clearly visible. Indeed they are. The scorch marks at the edge clearly give the truth away. Scorch marks. It would appear that this room was the scene of a little marital altercation. Mrs. Garrideb's mighty arm muscles left an impression, not only on her husband's face, but on the entire room. The force of her strike caused a candle to fall from the holder. And in seconds, the carpet was alight, and the whole corner of the room in flames. Yes, sir. For the most ferocious beast in this world is neither a violent lion nor a vengeful woman, but fire. And in this room, that ferocious beast bared his claws and ran amok. Eloquently put, my dear fellow. So you see, there's but one conclusion here. After the sparks of marital discord flew, this room was the scene of a fire. Mr. Sholmes, sir. I salute you!
What did she do to him?
I don't think she did anything. He just fainted? So maybe when she was saying, no, nothing happened, they were just trying to keep that a secret.
The maid thing or the fire?
The whole thing. Everything they did last night and all that. It's these dash long winter nights, you know, nothing to do but read in front of the fire. Luckily, there's a jolly good second-hand bookshop just around the corner. Buy all my novels there. And in the pages of one particular novel, you discovered some rather illicit material, from which your wife admonished you harshly, it seems. Don't know about admonished. Demolished might be rather closer to the mark. And beast is more surely an apt... Yep. Here we go again. And the carpet, was that destroyed by fire when a candle fell on the floor? Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. I was caught between the old stick's rage and the raging flames. You paint a torrid picture, sir. One that would have been most entertaining. That's sympathy for you. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. Had to hide the mess behind that screen for the time being. Over here, Mr. Garrideb? Well, you have nothing more to hide now, if you'll allow me. Had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Gosh. Then the wife started hurling things at me. What a terrible sight it must have been. There was I, back up against the window under heavy enemy fire, incendiary books incoming 10 to the dozen. Worst of it is, I lost my favorite, book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride, ah yes, your notorious love of big cats coming through again. I assure you the title didn't influence my choice in the slightest. So the poor man really did lose something dear to him as a result of the ferocious beast's rampage. Mr. Sholmes' deductions turned out to be correct once again. It can only be described as a great British wonder. I tell you, it was total carnage, flames everywhere, and the old stick in full fettle. Out of interest, what time of the day was that? Not sure I can remember. It was 2 days ago now. Let's see, around 5 o'clock, I think. So at exactly the same time as a terrifying incident was unfolding outside your window on the street below. Even more terrifying on the inside, I can assure you. The whole of Blighty could have been flattened outside my window at that moment, and I wouldn't have noticed a dashed thing. Oh, really? Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Neverhoda, what can I do for you? Well, I think we've gotten to the bottom of Mr. Garrett's situation now. But what does it have to do with Mr. Natsumi's circumstances? I can't help you there, I'm afraid. What? My dear fellow, if you recall, I did say as much from the outset. I warned you that although I knew the retired army man to be hiding something, I cannot be sure whether his secret would prove to be of relevance or not. I just knew you were going to say that. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Now, Mr. Neverhoda, you mustn't lose heart. Bear in mind that all things fall into one of only two categories, those relevant to the case and those not. That makes no sense to me. Well, no matter. It is of far greater importance that you make up your mind now. Sorry, visiting hours at the prison will soon be over. Oh no, is it that time already? And I think next time we play, we'll go back and speak to him. Alright. Well, until next time.